What up, y'all? We are here for our weekly anchor message where we're just taking a look at the week ahead to see what kind of spiritual lessons we will be experiencing as the week unfolds. So let's get into it. So from the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck, we've got the box again. That was here last week. Followed by Apocalypse. Theme of 2025. And followed by the Lover. Underneath the box, we have Seven of Wands, which was also one of our cards last week. So same lessons sort of following us into this week and culminating or building. Underneath Apocalypse, we've got the Lovers. And underneath the Lover, or we have the Lover, and underneath the Lover, we have the Four of Wands. Interesting. So I'm going to pause here. We're going to listen to the quick audio, and you can see the layout of the cards, and then we'll come right back. Again, we begin our week with a firm reminder from Scorpio that the container we find ourselves in at the moment has been custom designed to awaken our darkness so that it might be transformed once and for all. If we think of life as a first-person player video game, we, the player, must navigate growingly more difficult levels designed specifically to challenge and test our senses, skills, reason, discernment, wisdom, moral compass, faith, etc., sending obstacle after obstacle, opponent after opponent, to challenge us to awaken our potential fullness as we continually best our opponent and graduate to the next level. Then we can take our challenges less personally and focus on how best to consciously navigate through them. We are currently breaking through our past limitations, healing old wounds, discovering blind spots in ourselves, and rewriting old programming. Every layer of shadow and darkness that we allow the light to pierce reveals more and more of the eternal light of the Creator that radiates from within us. These tribulations are not punishment, but are providing the pressure and friction needed for evolution. What is stagnant and putrid is being exposed so that we can choose otherwise. We're at the end of an era and in the threshold of another. We have a chance to consciously participate in the co-creation of our next chapter alongside the Creator. We may not be able to control how the next level presents itself to us, but what we do control is our consciousness, our choices, and our actions. We have a chance to create a beautiful new reality, choosing love, cultivating from a consciousness of love, choosing with our hearts and souls, not our egoic carnal minds. Harmony, unity, peace, stability, prosperity are all possible when we unceasingly choose them. All right, so back at that theme where Scorpio is like taking off and layers of negativity and the light is piercing through to reveal more of our potential, right? And so if you are feeling challenged, don't be discouraged. This challenge is specifically designed for you, not against you. So as we move through life, it becomes helpful as we're once we awaken to sort of see life as this like first person player game where we're navigating the levels, and it's like almost like an organic simulation that is responding to our energy at any given moment. And the circumstances and parts and pieces are moving to adjust, to continually like put pressure on us to overcome our weaknesses and reveal more strength, more courage of conviction, more moral fiber, more faith, more talent, more wisdom, more savvy, right? It's like the levels keep getting harder and the opponent is just always there. But as we like navigate these layers and these levels, like we start to understand the rules of the game, and then we can anticipate the opponent and when, you know, it might be hiding and where, and when it might be showing up. And so right now we can start to see the current challenges that we're in a different light, and not get discouraged by them or feel like, oh, am I being punished by the universe? Or when am I ever going to be good enough? Or what did I do now? You know, it's like, instead of taking life's challenges personally, we just understand that that's the nature of the game we're in, right? We're playing at an Olympic level. So it's like we stop taking the challenges personally, and then we start saying challenge accepted. And we start proactively navigating through life in a different way when we realize that we're not being punished and we're not cursed, but we're being groomed and primed and shaped and being put through the crucible to purify and strengthen our metal, right? To test our metal. So it's like, I see this box here and it's like we're at the center of the box, and the box is like the container that we're in. And this is the box that provides the space and the restriction and the circumstances. And it's like we want to find our way through all of these layers and levels. And in the one hand, it's like we're finding our way through these layers of shells of darkness that got built up around us, that made us, that created the restriction and the limitations to begin with. But we're also breaking down these layers and revealing that light and letting it pierce through from the inside, right? Like, this is that pure light of the Creator that's within us, and it's within our spirit. And so the more that we can heal and correct our soul, the more luminous we become, and the more of that radiance can spill out from within us, in our being and in our actions and in our energy and in our choices and in our words and the things that we create and do. So it really comes in, it's revealing the potential that's already there. So we have Seven of Wands back again. And I can't remember now, but I wonder if these two were paired together last week during the same reading, like during the Monday reading, because we had both of these cards last week and they were both significant. And so their pairing together is perfect, because the Seven of Wands is about breaking through limitations. It's about breaking patterns, seeing through our limiting beliefs, offloading faulty virus programming in our hard drive, and then putting new programming into our hard drive. So this character here, he's like the strong man, and he's breaking through the bars that have kept him bound in and held back, and he's freeing himself from maybe self-imposed limitations or projections of judgment that he's put on himself or that other people have put on him. His tattoos represent the memories that he carries through his life from his past relationships. Some of them were loving memories, some of them were conflict, right? But they have left him marked from those experiences, and he carries them with him, right? And we carry our wounds, and they fester until we heal them, and we can understand them better, and we can turn that pain into understanding and into compassion and into wisdom and into deeper, richer love, right? So whatever is happening right now, don't be discouraged by the challenge that you might be facing, because it's actually the game offering you an opportunity to overcome this period of test and initiation and really put the past behind us. Like, I think that what Scorpio is stirring up in us is anything that's like that old crap that, like, you know, when you once a year you pull a couch out and you're like, oh my God, there's dead people back here. It's disgusting, right? Because we don't go that deep, or we don't like often look behind that piece of furniture. Well, right now, Scorpio is the spiritual pulling out the couch and sweeping that dusty buildup, right? I mean, have you ever moved the oven, or like touched under the microwave that sits over the oven, and that like sticky grime and the dust is stuck to it? Is gross, right? So this is Scorpio season, like the challenges that are pressing our buttons and pushing our triggers, they're showing us that grime, that gross, greasy dust that gets built up over time that we don't tend to, that we just think of as just normal in the background, whatever. We don't take it too seriously because it seems benign. It's not causing us enough pain. It's not a big enough inconvenience to take the time to deal with that mess behind the oven, right? Well, so Scorpio season is like, okay, we're launching into this new era, a new era, not just a new chapter or a new cycle or a new timeline. We are in a collective, like, new era. And we all have the opportunity to go in with a clean, fresh slate and consciously co-create the reality that we would like to live in with the Creator, and not just kind of have the after effects of our reflex responses, right? Like, I feel like with the first half of my life, I was just getting whatever the repercussions were for my reactive behavior, right? But think about it, if you had more awareness and more self-mastery and more control and more presence in your consciousness when you are seeding the new chapter, right? When you're taking actions, it's like you can think, okay, I'm going to do this with confidence, and I'm going to do this with faith that the Creator is guiding me. And I'm going to do this with love in my heart and from an attitude of sharing. And I know that if it's not for me, that it'll be taken out of my hands. And if this is for me, that I still might be challenged, but I'm going to have the perseverance and the devotion to stick with it. And I'm going to have inklings of signs that I'm going in the right direction, but the power of the Creator is going to be supporting me because I'm going to be aligned with my purpose, right? So these challenging moments that might be sensitive and painful and uncomfortable, they're good because they show us what we need to clean up that we don't want to take with us into the new era, right? Any fears that hold us back, any enmeshment or codependency with those key relationships in your life that might have been affecting you for your entire life up until now, right? Maybe you have some like pattern that plays out with you and a parent where you don't feel like they give you the space to be your full free self without them having some kind of backlash or repercussion or getting on your case about it, all right? And then like you don't know how to like communicate with them to stand up for yourself, and it gets unhealthy and it goes wrong, right? So it's like this is a chance where you might butt heads with that relationship, that theme that comes up. And this might be an opportunity to try to navigate through that differently this time. Or put that old pattern and story behind you once and for all. And so maybe, you know, it's a little bit turbulent. Maybe you didn't handle it the best that you could, but you know, it's not like it's just a one and done. Like you haven't, the situation isn't over. It's still, you're still in it, right? So how you move forward from here can iron out the situation, can change it, can improve the situation. Start with your mindset, start with your consciousness. Pray that God will help you see it differently, that you can approach it differently, that you can feel differently about it, and help shape your consciousness to mirror the Creator's consciousness so that you're not so affected by this, but you are sovereign in your connection with the Creator. And so what's happening outside of that, circumstantial. but you're solid because you're with the Creator, and your connection with the Creator and your inner peace and fulfillment, as long as that's not shaken, your protection is solid under the Creator, right? But it's when we get into reactive behavior, when we get bent out of shape, when we become reactive and selfish or temperamental or, despairing, and we lose faith and we lose hope. It's like those are the moments that we cut off that connection, right? When we're casting judgment, when we're projecting, when we even like disconnect through feeling guilt and shame. It's like that cuts us off from that protection. That cuts us off from the blessing. So we are handling whatever life is throwing us right now. This is the simulation, and it is part of the game. This is our assignment, and this is what we have to navigate. And if we can embrace that and look at it as sort of like a game, even though sometimes it's not fun, then we will be taking it less personally, and we will consider the fact that this is the necessary element that we need to go through to awaken that inner strength, to awaken those inner gifts, and to be able to express those more fully without your fears and insecurities and your shortcomings holding you back. So embracing the container that we find ourselves in right now, even if we find that it is limiting and restrictive, it's like the universe is putting that pressure on us so that we are in a high intensity situation. So the stakes are higher. So the game is harder. It's harder not to be reactive, right? But what happens though, when the universe puts all the pressure on the world on us, and we're usually like crashing out and losing our temper, right? But what happens when we finally get to the point where the universe is putting all this pressure on us? We don't have the care to have another crash out, right? It's like when we transcend the ability for the universe to provoke our wrath, right? That's when we've transcended. That's when we've really healed something. And that's when we've broken a pattern. When we can be tempted by that thing that is so tempting and not fall for it again, not go into that same trap, right? That we've overcome that pattern. And so, yes, we might find ourselves in growing pressure, and the circumstances might be turned up. The intensity might be turned up. That's because it's the universe trying to provoke you. And it knows that if it can't get a reaction out of you, even with all the provocation, then there's no reason to mess with you anymore, because you've awakened, you've transcended, right? So think about those 7 deadly sins that we have to overcome, like temptation, laziness, wrath, right? Lust, all of those things. It's like if they're intensified for you right now, and greed, right? Like think about those 7 deadly sins. If any of that is intensified, or specific things that you struggle with, it's like it's actually a good sign, because this is an opportunity. If you can overcome that test, it reveals major light and reveals major blessings. So it's not the end of the world. That's where the apocalyptic energy is coming in. It's like when the apocalypse, like the meaning of an apocalypse is a revealing of something that was previously unknown. And so it's usually like disruption that reveals what has been hidden. So it's an upheaval that brings about an ending of something that comes at the revelation of information, of insight, that ends an era and brings the birth of a new era. So it's like the end of the old world and the beginning of a new one. And that's what we're in right now. We're in this moment in the zeitgeist where we are ending an old era and we are beginning a new one. We're in the age of Aquarius. So it's like this rebel mindset, this revolutionary mindset, humanitarianism, people wanting to do things for the greater good, for the highest good of the collective, not just for the self alone. So the old ways, the old things that used to drive us, the way that we used to make our decisions and choices is changing, because we are all having this like collective awakening. And we're reconsidering our choices and our values, and what do we value, and why do we make the choices that we do? Do they even serve us anymore? Do they light us up anymore? We're choosing a new road. I mean, look at what just happened on November 4th, when, every single election in the country was an overwhelming shift to flipping seats on the side of the Democratic Party. Which the Democratic Party is not perfect either. There's a new kind of version of the Democratic Party that's being birthed forth, and I think this is going to be popular with the masses. But they're calling it the Working Families Party. And it's focused on the things that working families need, which is affordability and all of those things. And it's a lot more radical than the performative big business Democrats that are basically the same as the Republicans, essentially. It's the same old people taking the same old money, playing the politician game that is just a bunch of BS. And everybody's had it. We've had enough. We want young people in that aren't corrupt and full of greed and driven by self-interest, but we want people that are passionate for serving the people and serving the greater good. And they are showing up. We are starting to get better choices. And we see that in the Zoran Mondani. Now I'm making fun of Andrew Cuomo. Now I can't say his name now. Zoran Mondani. Winning the election in New York, people loved his campaign because he had integrity and sincerity, and I believe he's going to try to do what he's wanted to set out and do, and I think he wants to improve life for the everyday person, right? So this apocalypse is very uncomfortable that we find ourselves in at this moment, but it is offering us a fork in the road where we can go in a new direction. The Lovers here is a symbol of that splitting off on the path. And it's okay, I've got to decide which way am I going to go in life? What path am I choosing to take? And how do I make those choices? Am I choosing from the heart? Am I being led by divine inspiration and guidance, right? In traditional tarot, the Lovers shows the scene of the Garden of Eden. And you've got the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil behind Adam and Eve, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And in the center of them is the archangel Raphael. And the feminine is looking up to the archangel Raphael, while the masculine is looking at the feminine. And so what that means is that the feminine, we, humankind, are all the feminine in juxtaposition to the creator, the light, which is the masculine, which is always giving and wanting us to be the container of that light, the receiver. So human soul is the feminine and the light is the masculine. But contained in our own little microcosm, our soul and our internal world, our intrinsic world is our feminine aspect. It's the part of us that is intuitive and it doesn't have to go on logic or reason, but it's the part of us that has this unencumbered connection to that voice of our angelic support, to the voice of Archangel Raphael is representing divine inspiration and divine guidance and heavenly help. So our soul is appealing to divine guidance to guide us and lead us. And then the masculine aspect of the card represents our outer aspects, our conscious personality, the way that we navigate and move through the world, how we express our soul, how we express and how we follow that divine guidance. So when the Lovers card shows up, it usually asks us, okay, as we're moving through life and making choices, what is steering those choices? Are we coming from a consciousness of tree of life consciousness, which is the desire to receive for the sake of sharing, which gives eternal life and eternal fulfillment? Or are we choosing in life from the tree of knowledge of good and evil consciousness, which is the desire to receive for the self alone? the consciousness that leads to destruction and decay and the breakdown of life, and it leads to death and illness and sickness and expiration dates, right? So we are in the end of one era and we are in the beginning of a new era. And so we have this moment, this opportunity to use this time wisely, to pass these tests with great vigor and enthusiasm and victory and courage of your convictions, knowing that when you overcome that challenge, you release like this boon, when you sacrifice one thing, like you break something down, you break it apart, you reveal the light that was in that thing, and then that light is redirected into the new creation. So when we sacrifice parts of our ego that are difficult for us to overcome, or we heal old wounds, or we are, able to like overcome a pattern or a habit or an addiction or something, that is like the sacrifice, breaking the old form open and releasing that energy. And then, so we want to break apart those old bad habits within this apocalypse, reveal that energy and redirect it into our new chapter, our new era. What are we choosing? What consciousness are we in when we are making those choices and we are taking those actions? Because we want to mirror the consciousness of the Creator. And if we can be in a consciousness of love, of creation, of proactivity, of cause consciousness, like the quality of the consciousness we're in when we take action and we move our hand to our good works, that flavors the action that we take. If we are in a state of irritants and fear about something and we're stressed out and we, get into our things to do list and we start taking action, then we're sowing seeds of chaos. And unintentionally, but it's like our energy is sort of contaminating the things that we're doing. So we need to be really mindful, especially this coming year, that it is going to be a very binary year because of its numerological value. The numerical value of this year, according to the Hebrew calendar of Tikkun Olam, the collective correction calendar of 6,000 years, that year that we are on, when the numbers added together, the numerical value is the same as the Hebrew word for judgment. So this year, our lives are going to feel very black and white. It's going to seem like we're either blessed or cursed. And, it can be one minute and one the other, but it's going to have to do with the consciousness we're in. If we're in a dark, negative consciousness, then we're going to experience difficulty this year, and it's going to show itself. The darkness is going to manifest and show it to you so that you do not keep cultivating that darkness. Because when you're a person who is on the spiritual path, your energy is more effective to that scale back there, that cosmic scale. And so if the righteous people of the world are tied up with tikkun correction and going through, difficulties and still stuck in their patterns, then that is taking them away from their most important purpose and gift that they can offer, which is their intense energy influence in the collective. So like our healing can actually tip the scale in a greater sense than just the average person continuing to do okay, So if we overcome a great difficulty and a great darkness, that tips the scale for the side of good in a major way. But if a righteous person does a negative action, their energy is so influential that little negative action can have such big consequences. And I've noticed that for myself too this year. It's like even little things like saying something, it's like, I think I'm in a safe space in a group of people to say something, and then it just kind of comes out without thinking. And then lo and behold, like next thing you know, they're telling somebody else that I said that. I'm like, oh my God, I thought it would go without saying. You know what I mean? So you're like, oh, okay. Even the small things that you do, you might get an instant slap on the wrist from the Creator because we as spiritual people have like this more intense energy, and it's more effective than other people. So something small that you do might feel like it has like greater consequences. And that's because the creator is like, no, we can't afford to have the righteous people getting sidetracked, sowing seeds of negativity, caught in having to go through processes of correction. We're at the rubber hits the road right now. Like, dress rehearsal's over, and we need the righteous people in the world pumping the world full of light and helping the world channel through their own light and helping the world overcome their own apocalypse, right? Because not everybody had the head start that we've had, right? We've known for the past few years that things are changing and that we're in a bridge space, and we've been doing the work to make the pivots and the shifts, but not everybody has. Some people are having the rug ripped out now, and they never have before. And so they're in the full intensity without having the context or the bearings that we've been having. Like we kind of knew this was coming for a minute. So again, this is an opportunity to choose the beautiful new reality that we want to create. But we do have to practice the discipline and the self-mastery to stay on top of our consciousness and be aware of where our mindset is and where our heart is and where our emotions are before we start doing actions that are going to start creating either a hairball, so maybe, take that into account if you need to shift your mindset and shift your energy and take a pause. Give yourself the permission to do that. It's going to save you a lot of chaos and a lot of costly mistakes in the end. And so here we have the Lover card. And in the Wild Unknown archetypes, the Lover is not as, this is very symbolic and very metaphorical. But the Lover card in the archetypes deck has to do with feeling like you're in a time of sweetness, like a lover. Like when you're excited about a lover and you're just like, oh, nothing could be wrong. Everything is so delicious. The trees are I've never been more beautiful. You know what I mean? And so life's sweetness that's sort of amplified when your heart is open and you're in love. This is the possibility that we are moving towards. We have the potential to create like a heaven on earth and to be in a life that we love, full of beauty and good feelings and harmony. We have the Four of Wands here paired with the Lover. So again, this could be literal love coming into our life soon if you're not already settled into a relationship. If you are settled into a relationship, you might be hitting new levels of your bond together because you're overcoming these things together, So you might be hitting a new chapter of happiness and sweetness and harmony. But if you are single, you might be actually because of this major shift in energy, this might be the last kind of tying up of the healing loose ends that you needed to do before you're prepared to be able to have a successful, healthy next level relationship, right? So maybe now the dust is settled, the pieces have fallen into place, and we're close to having that kind of love and partnership coming into our life. But either way, this portends that this next era, this next chapter can be marked by harmony and a time of prosperity and goodness and peace. And I hope so, right? I would love for this to be the case. I would love a sweetie pie, swan tunnel, tunnel of love kind of future for all of us, right? Just ushy gushy, romantic, good times, peaceful times, happy times again. It would be lovely. It would certainly be lovely. But we can make the world, it's up to us to be the change we want to see in the world. That's literally what this is all about. This whole reading is be the change you wish to see in the world, because we are at a start over point where we're rebuilding and we're building new and we're going into this major new era and we're starting to really embody the new self. So we had this huge shift from Pluto that was in Capricorn to Pluto shifting into Aquarius at the beginning of this year in 2025, which sort of launched us into the new timeline. Like this year, 2025 was bam, new timeline. We're in Bizarro world, right? The last 2 years, 2023, 2024, were the bridge years that were sort of shifting us into that transition. So now it's like, even though we've been in this year for like a year, it's still just the beginning of this new story. And so we're still getting our bearings. It's like being in a brand new place, not knowing where we are, not knowing the rules yet, still finding our way around, finding our way through and breaking in this new skin, right? We're this new self, but we're not fully embodied yet in the new self. We're moving into new circumstances in life, but they haven't quite come to fruition yet. They're not quite revealed. So it's like when we're watching a movie or we're watching a series, and the beginning of the series is like setting up the characters, and you're sort of getting a lay of the land, like what's their life like, what's their surroundings like, and then things kind of shift and it gets them into the adventure. And so we've been in sort of that introduction year, where we've been in the introduction of the movie or the show, where we're getting to know the characters and the players and getting a feel for the environment that we're in. And the plot point is coming to where things are shifting. And I think that was sort of like this last part of the summer, the eclipse season we just went through. I feel like that was a plot point. I feel like we're in the plot point moment now. And so the energy is going to shift in some way, right? And maybe the world's circumstances aren't going to get any less crazy for a minute, but I think that we are getting our sure footing within it. We're adjusting, and we're able to, like, I don't know, find our rainbows within the shitstorm, I guess. And finding a little bit more ability to maintain our peace and navigate through all this craziness, right? As we start building a new world, a new life. And I think that, November 4th's elections were a good sign. I think it's a positive sign that we are going in a positive direction. And the Kabbalah Center, their astrological reports, I went back and watched them last night to get some notes in order for our 2026 prediction series. And I remember them talking about how November was going to be a big deal. And then when I went back and watched that, they said leaders will change in November. Like world leadership will change in November. The way that laws will change in November. The trajectory of leadership and countries and laws and borders and boundaries are going to move in November. And I mean, look, the whole country has been controlled on every branch of our government by the Republicans all year. And so now we have finally taken that, put that balance back with all of these seats getting flipped to the Democratic persuasion. On top of that, we have the Prop 50 Act that was passed in California to redraw California's voting districts to pick up even more seats for Democrats from California. So again, borders changing, leadership changing, but it feels like it felt very scary at the beginning of this year, because it's like, okay, we're shifting, like society is changing. And then it changed towards evil and greed. And it almost felt like for a minute that there was no hope that we were going to be completely taken over by the evil overlords of the world. And it was hard to hold on to the belief that we were going to see bright days again, honestly. But I do feel like we have come together. I think a lot of times we are in this apocalyptic precipice, and it's really up to the scales, right? How well do we keep the scales tipped to the side of good, right? How are we doing? Because anytime in the Bible, in the Old Testament, God would destroy the world, it's because the world was just so out of control and evil and then darkness that it was irredeemable. They had to start over, right? And so I feel like whenever we're close to an apocalyptic moment, it's because the scales are out of balance. And I feel like humanity has come together and we've awakened through this putrid, disgusting stuff that's been showed this year about greed, about prejudice, about hatred, about violence, about perversion. And so it's all coming up to be dealt with like a boil, just festering with infection. And so now we've been dealing with this, and it's not like we're finished yet, but I do feel like the collective consciousness is moving towards unity and oneness. The Messianic era, the Messiah, is supposed to bring about an era of peace and harmony where there's no more disease, no more poverty, no more violence, no more killing. It's peace and prosperity and goodness and love and working together and oneness, right? So that's the human destiny that we are on a trajectory towards. And so at the end of the 6,000 year correction, it's like that's the goal where we're supposed to be arriving at. And I just feel like with new generations coming up and with movements happening all over the world and women leaders all over the world making positive changes for people to have better work-life balance and greater freedom and liberty and people being taken care of, like I feel like we are tipping towards a positive direction. And we're getting there. And so by the time we get there, it'll be over. The world will be ending. But I do think we're going in a positive direction. And I think it's going to be up to us to just constantly choose that from our heart, from our soul, from our consciousness, and align ourselves, mind, heart, soul, body, strength, conviction, to be devoted to that love. All right, y'all, that is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekly manifestation oracle message. And I'm going to continue on behind the scenes working on the 2026 prediction series. And I'll let you know when that is coming out. I'm going to try to have it finished by, hopefully by Thanksgiving is when I want to have it uploaded. So you guys can get like a little Black Friday deal for that. But I'm going to do my best. But we'll be up before the holidays are over. So we'll see you coming soon. Very exciting. I'm already really excited about, I've recorded the yearly overview and the quarterly breakdowns, and it's very potent, poignant, specific information about the year. So I'm excited to get in there and edit them and then come up with some good journal exercises and things to do to supplement and help you guys workshop, and me too, workshop these themes that come up through the year. So I'm excited. So now I have left the monthlies, the monthly readings, an intro video, and then I'm going to give you guys a quick summary of the presentation that was given to highlight the major aspects, astrological aspects between 2025 and 2027 that were given by the Kabbalah Center, which that was part of the live stream on Rosh Hashanah, and it's not available to watch on the website anymore. I've been trying to look for it. So that's gone. So I'm glad that I did the stitch with my iPad to show you guys the video recap of that, because now that's the only record of it left other than the clips that they're putting out on their social media, but it's not like the whole presentation. I haven't been able to go back and find that. So I'm glad I stitched it up for y'all. And that's a good plug for the Kabbalah Center too. If you guys are curious about what kind of content they're putting out, it's good content. So y'all can see that, and maybe it'll inspire you to join. And if not, just enjoy the recap. But I'm going to go back and get those notes so I can give them to you as well. All right, that is all for tonight. Peace.